Hey guys, how's it going? Jacob James Nichols back with News Reviews TV, and just like I promised, I'm going to show you my entire DVD and Blu-ray horror movie collection. I hope you really like this video. This time, just like my PS4 collection, I'm not going to be too in-depth because, well, there goes some of the movies, sorry, but I'm not going to be too much in-depth because this is going to take me quite a while to get through. Pretty much my whole collection is pretty much horror movies, because I'm a huge fan. But, yeah, without a doubt, I'm just gonna say the title of the names of the movies, and I'm gonna tell you some great horror movies to watch on Halloween, or some good horror movies in general. Alright, without a doubt, let's get started. Alright, first up, The Changeling. Pretty intense, creepy ghost film. I still have yet to watch pretty much a bunch of these movies, sorry, but just kind of bear with me. Next up, Pieces. People say this is a cheaper grindhouse version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I might be surprised. I'm not sure. Another one I have to watch. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Next up, Christine. Great, let's just say a love horror film. I'll just put it at that. Pretty great movie. I consider you guys watching that movie. Next up, Mama. Yeah, it's alright. Not one you should check out instantly, though. Next up, this is kind of a horror comedy. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Great funny film. If you like movies like Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, highly recommend this movie. Go out and check it. I guess this is an action type horror film with Kurt Russell, and that is Bone Tomahawk. People say it's pretty awesome, like graphic and bloody and stuff. So why not? Next up, The Haunting, the remake. I used to like this movie when I was little. Of course, I didn't know a lot back then, but I watched this recently, and this movie is terrible. Do not watch it. I might get this on Blu-ray at some point, but just for now, for $4, I just got the DVD, and that is The Fog. I consider you guys checking out this movie. It has Jamie Lee Curtis when she did the Halloween films. A great 80s horror film. Better than the original. Check this version out. This is kind of a horror drama. Starring, once again, the great... We lost him too soon. And that is the great Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo. Man, one of his better performances. He just comes off as a creepy old man in this movie, but great film, nevertheless. Next up, The Butterfly Effect. This is a great film. Check out this film. Ignore all the sequels. They suck. But Ashton Kutcher, one of his better movies in my opinion. I highly recommend you check this out. Next up, the classic, Child's Play. Great film. A great movie to watch on Halloween. If you're scared of dolls, I highly recommend you to watch this film. It might make it even worse. Next up, Ghost Rider. This is an okay film. I mean, it has Nicolas Cage, so you're gonna get what you get. But yeah, one of the better movies of 2007, in my opinion. Next up, Insidious. I don't have the other two movies, but I'm pretty fine with this movie. It's alright. It's not the best, but James Wan is a great director. And yeah, this movie's pretty creepy for what it is. I highly recommend you check it out. Next up, The Entity. This is pretty much like a cheap 80s horror film. Instead of showing ghosts and spirits, it goes through electricity, I believe. It's kind of a Poltergeist ripoff, but it's alright. One of my favorite movies of 2010 or 2011, I believe, and that is Attack the Block. highly recommend you check this movie out. Let's just say aliens versus humans. Great film, check it out. And it also stars the main guy from the new Star Wars movie. Great actor as well. Next up, the remake of Fright Night. A lot of people downgrade on this movie and talk bad about it, but I actually enjoyed it. Great cast, great suspense. I highly recommend you check it out. Next up, Anaconda. One of my favorite guilty pleasures. I grew up on this film. Starring Ice Cube and Jennifer... what's her name? Jennifer Lopez, there we go. Funny, campy action horror flick. Check it out. This movie was pretty underrated until they made a whole bunch of other crappy sequels, but VHS, great movie for what it is. If you love anthology movies, highly check this out. I highly recommend it. Great film for Halloween too. Next up, first off, I wasn't too sure about this movie. I was like, yeah, it's alright. But once I watched it on DVD again, I kept watching it. That's how much I love this movie. And that is The Cabin in the Woods. If you love horror movies that parody themselves and make fun of themselves, great film to watch. Great film for Halloween. One of the most iconic horror films, The Silence of the Lambs. Buffalo Bill. What else can I say? Pretty good film. Next up, Hide and Seek. This was pretty much when Dakota Fanning was in her early prime, when she first started making movies, and she nailed the performance, especially Robert De Niro. Let's just say it's a kind of a ghost film, but it's really confusing at the end, but still check it out if you want to. Another guilty pleasure, Idle Hands. Love this film. If you have not seen it, check it out. You can find it pretty cheap as well. Great Halloween film as well. Sorry about that. I'm a pretty huge fan of this franchise. It started going downhill after 3, in my opinion, but all the Final Destination movies, all 4 of them, I really enjoy the first and second. The third one's okay. The Final Destination was okay as well. A lot of people downgrade on that, but I kind of liked it. Great horror films to watch on Halloween as well. Let's just say it's pretty tough to escape death. And once you escape it, it's not too happy about it. Next up, some classics. The entire Frankenstein Complete Legacy Edition collection. Sorry. If you enjoy black and white films and classics, great collection to pick up. I still need to get Dracula, Creature of the Black Lagoon, I said Dracula, and The Wolfman, Invisible Man. I like those movies as well, but yeah, you get Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Funny film. Yeah, great. You get total of 6 movies. Great collection to have. Next up, 4 horror classics collection. Comes with Children of the Corn, Creepshow 2, Chud, and House. The only film I like in this, to be honest, is Creepshow 2. The others are alright, but if you like any of these movies, pick it up. You can find it pretty cheap. Next up, Wolf Creek 2. I was kind of a fan of the first one, and I would say this one's an upgrade from the first one a lot. It's a lot better, more blood and stuff, but yeah. Sorry. Pretty campy, cheap, cheesy movies that are made, but it's pretty good for what it is. I highly recommend you check this out. American Psycho. Pretty much everybody's talked about favorite horror comedy. And yeah, it's pretty good for what it is. disturbing, let's just say, psycho. But yeah, this is, I believe, Patrick Bates. He's kind of like Norman Bates, but a lot more psychotic in my opinion. But great film nonetheless. And Jared Leto also starred in this. One of his earlier movies. One of my favorite movies to watch when I was younger. The best sequel in my opinion. And that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Great 80s film. One of the best sequels ever made in my opinion. Next up, Joyride. Another film I grew up on. Great film as well. Paul Walker, rest in peace. You are dearly missed. One of his better movies in my opinion. Great film to watch as well on Halloween. And next up, Final Destination 5. This is the best one out of the entire franchise in my opinion. Highly recommend you check this out. This is one of the earlier Dolls movies that were made. And you can tell it's pretty dated, but it was pretty creepy back then, and it still holds up today quite a bit. And that is the classic Dolls. Like I said, if you're scared of dolls, or have a doll collection, this film might change your mind. Great film. Next up, the hilarious Zombieland. Everybody knows about this movie, zombies, and Woody Harrelson wanting his Twinkies. What else can I say? Great film. This is one of the kind of the most popular indie film in my opinion of 2015, and that is It Follows. I enjoyed this film for what it was, I'll be honest, but everybody overhyped this movie, and all the hype downgraded my opinion of this film. Everybody says it's perfect. No, it's not. There's problems, but it is pretty intense for what it is. Check it out if you're a fan of indie horror films. Next up, the remake of The Fly, starring, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum, there we go. Pretty good film. A better sequel in my opinion. Yeah, everybody should know about this film. A lot of parodies have been made, like on Family Guy and stuff, but yeah. Next up, M. Night Shyamalan's okay comeback, and that is The Visit. Kind of creepy, but it still wasn't one of his best films, but I'll give him a pass because it was decent and pretty entertaining to watch. Next up, Pan's Labyrinth. I hear a lot of great things about this film. I think it's all in Spanish or a different language, but I'm trying to pronounce his name. Guillermo del Toro. He made this film, the producer of Hellboy 2 and all that. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this. I seen it when I was younger. I was like, it was alright. I was pretty bored, but I'll give it another shot. I was happy to find this on Blu-ray, to be honest, for $4.99. And it's a decent, pretty good film, and that is High Tension. It's an okay film, like I said. It's kind of confusing, but I highly recommend you check this out. I'm not going to spoil too much because I'll just give it away, but check it out if you want to. Next up, the classic, The Evil Dead. I prefer Evil Dead 2 over this one, to be honest, but nonetheless, great film. Great film to watch on Halloween. Next up, another guilty pleasure, Hatchet. This is one of the better indie films, underrated films in my opinion. It kind of throws 80s horror / comedy in there, like cheesy camp stuff, but really bloody, really great. Hatchet. Next up, Freaks of Nature. I just picked this up because it was cheap at Best Buy, but another zombie film. They're pretty much all the same, but I'll give it a shot. I might be entertained and surprised by it. Okay, next up, The Tremors Attack Pack. I have not seen all the other three. I only seen the first one, and I'm in love with the first one. Kevin Bacon in his prime. Funny, kind of creepy movie. Next up, Queen of the Damned with Aaliyah. Sorry, Aaliyah, you are dearly missed. Rest in peace, but yeah, I have not seen this movie. People say it's kind of mediocre, but I'll give it a shot one of these days. Next up, Magic. Like I said, if you're scared of dolls, check this movie out. I'm not going to say too much about it, but let's just say it's a doll that comes to life, and yeah. Next up, the movie that started the phenomenon of 2016, and that is Stephen King's It. Man, these clown sightings are getting out of hand. People say it's because of the new It film coming out, but I think it's all a setup. It's stupid, but great film nonetheless. One of the better creepy clown movies in my opinion. Check it out, another great Halloween film. The second half is pretty much unwatchable, but the first part, really great. I was really looking forward to this movie ever since I seen the trailers, but it was alright. It really didn't hold up to what I wanted to, but it was okay. And that is the Houses October Built. It's pretty much about all these friends going to different haunted houses, and let's just say some of the people from the haunted house that they go to just comes back to terrorize them. Pretty okay film. It's pretty cheap too, so I would recommend you to check it out. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm only a fan of the first film in this franchise. The others are terrible, but that is the Paranormal Activity 3 movie collection. I picked this up because it's pretty cheap. I'm like, why not? The first one is great to watch on Halloween. The other, just skip. All the other ones are not worth it. Next up, the better remakes in my opinion. The Hills Have Eyes. Another great film that I grew up on. If you're a fan of the first one, let's just say it's kind of the same in this one, but really updated stuff. More blood, more creeps, more just violence. Yeah, this movie goes extreme. Check it out. Everybody craps on this movie. I'm not sure why. I watched it in the theater and I watched it again, but I kind of like it. If I should watch it again to see if I like it or not, but yeah, it was okay for what I've seen. And that is Texas Chainsaw 3D. Sorry. I know a lot of people don't like this movie, but I kind of do. It's not as bad as people say, but yeah, there is a lot of stupid stuff in this film. But other than that, it's an okay film. Check it out. Next up, Shark Night. Another movie I kind of like. If you're a fan of like Jaws movies and sharks, check this movie out. Next up, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Another parody movie of itself. If you're a fan of movies like Shaun of the Dead and stuff like that, you'll be entertained and bust out laughing in this film. Let's just say these two guys are claimed to be the killers, but they're not. The friends are just doing it themselves, but highly recommend it. I'm pretty sure, get a giggle out of it. Man, so many movies. Next up, Sinister. Great, the 2010s era film. Really creepy, really suspenseful. Highly recommend you check it out. Next up, the triple pack. Friday the 13th remake, Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and Freddy vs. Jason. These two are pretty much skippable. Friday the 13th was alright. This one's garbage. Freddy vs. Jason, pretty great film. Watch it on Halloween. This is a great film to watch on Halloween as well. Evil Dead 2. Just like I said, better than the first one. Great film. Awesome. Next up, a lot of people gave crap on this movie too, but I kind of like it. And that is My Soul to Take. Next up, the remake of The Evil Dead. Great film as well. The better remakes, in my opinion. Just like they did the similarities to the first Evil Dead, and just kind of made it better. Yeah. Everybody's favorite zombie film, and I can see why I kind of like this film. And that is The Return of the Living Dead. Awesome zombie film. Classic. Next up, The Lost Boys. Another great 80s horror film. Starring Corey Feldman. If you've seen him in the news lately, his music isn't all that, but I think he should go back to acting, but he's kind of getting that age where he's getting pretty old, but anyway, great 80s horror film, vampire flick. Highly recommend you watch on Halloween. Some people probably hate Abraham Lincoln out there, but I'm really a fan of him. He freed the slaves, he tried to bring equality, and he helped us kill vampires. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Cheesy, campy, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, another horror comedy starring Tom Hanks, and that is The Burbs. Don't know too much about this, but people say it's pretty decent. Next up, this is kind of an action film, but there is some horror elements, I think, in there. And that is Doomsday. Action-packed, people say, so I'm really looking forward to it. Everybody likes it. Some people like this movie, some don't. And I'm kind of in the middle of liking and not liking it. And it is Van Helsing. It's okay. You have vampires, Frankenstein. I don't know if Dracula's in her, I think he might be, but yeah, it's an okay film. Check it out if you like this movie. Or if you're a fan of Frankenstein and stuff like that. One of better M. Night Shyamalan movies, and that is The Signs. Great alien film. Great. Check it out. The entire Nightmare on Elm Street films. I really like the first one, the second one. The other ones are just, they're passable in my opinion. I would consider not watching them, but anyway, the first two films are pretty great. You can find this pretty cheap at Best Buy for like $20-$30 on sale for Blu-Ray, all the movies. Great collection to have. Watch them on Halloween as well. Next up, 7. Dead Silence. Awesome ghost movie. If you're scared of dolls and puppets, check this movie out. Watch on Halloween. It's pretty decent for one watch, but after that, you already know what's going to happen, but it's still worth a watch. Next up, 28 Days Later. A film that reintroduced the zombie franchise. Great zombie film. Next up, The Cell. Man, ever since I bought this, I've grown to love and appreciate this film. And that is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Great film. Great movie to watch on Halloween as well. I'm sorry. Check this movie out. Next up, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Horror comedies, I guess. Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Classics. Everybody craps on the new one. I have not seen it, but yeah, I would say it's pretty generic and mediocre. None the best. Army of Darkness. Not as great as the Evil Dead's, but still highly watchable. Check it out. The first, From Dusk Till Dawn, is the best one. The second one is terrible, but From Dusk Till Dawn, highly recommend it. A great vampire film. Demons, the first one. Great 80s horror film. Highly recommend you check it out on Halloween. If I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, but it's pretty expensive for the Blu-ray and DVD, but if you can find it, check it out. Next up, The Thing. Great alien monster flick. Highly check it out. Watch on Halloween as well. Another great film to watch on Halloween, Jeepers Creepers. Creepy, creepy film. This movie creeped me out ever since I was young, and I loved it up till this day. Check it out. Next up, Sleepy Hollow. Next up, the entire Chucky collection. I tried to take this back to Best Buy because sometimes they don't have the Blu-rays, just the DVDs. But, of course, they wouldn't take it back because it was past the 30-day limit. But I was pretty ticked off. But still, the DVDs, great collection. Pretty much all the Chucky films are great in my opinion. Great films to watch on Halloween. Next up, Jaws. Classic. No shark film can ever top this. Let's see. Silent Hill. I don't know. I'm not sure why I still have this. Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one. The Ring. Creepy videotape ghost film. Highly check it out. Alien. Classic. 2001 really isn't a horror film, but Clockwork Orange and The Shining are pretty disturbing, creepy films. Highly recommend you check all three of these movies out. Classics. Stanley Kubrick's best work. Next up, They Live. I really didn't care for this movie too much the first time I watched it, but I watched it again recently on HBO on TV or something like that. Man, great film. Great alien film. Highly recommend it. Let's see here. Sorry that I'm not too organized. Let's see. Next up, Dog Soldiers. Really great, low budget werewolf film. Highly recommend it. Next up, you got I Am Legend, Blade, and Constantine. Pretty great films in my opinion. I have not seen V for Vendetta nor Blade, but I Am Legend and Constantine are great, pretty decent films. Highly recommend you check all these movies out at some point. Next up, I really wasn't a fan the first time I seen this, but I grew to love this movie, and that is Trick or Treat. Awesome Halloween anthology film. Watch it on Halloween. Next up, Sweeney Todd. Kind of a horror musical starring Johnny Depp, of course, in makeup by Tim Burton as always, but heard great things. Really looking forward to watching it. Next up, Dragging Me to Hell. Directed by Sam Raimi, who made The Evil Deads. This kind of falls back into the genre of cheesy, campy, and yeah, pretty decent. Next up, The Conjuring. Everybody loves this film. They overhype it, in my opinion. It's just alright. The second one was way better. Sorry to say that, but it's true. Next up, Grindhouse double feature. Let's see. Sorry, I can't open it, but anyway, you get Planet Terror. Oh, there we go. You get Planet Terror and Death Proof. Two great Quentin Tarantino films, sorry. Highly recommend you check them out. Next up, Shaun of the Dead. Funny film. If you have not seen it, check it out. World War Z. This movie's okay. It's okay, I'll give it that. Okay zombie film. Not one you should check out immediately, though. Next up, Voices, starring Ryan Reynolds. One of his lower-known movies. He pretty much starts hearing voices, and he starts to go insane and kills people, but very funny. Highly recommend you check it out. Again, I'm not sure why I still have the DVD to this, but I just upgraded not too long ago, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Great film, like I said. Let's see, I think this might be all of them that on this pile at least. Yep, I think that's everything. Next up, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I just picked this movie up, I just had to, because I'm kind of a fan of cheesy stuff like that. Atomic Brain Invasion. Next up, Splinter. Frankenstein's Army. ATM, starring Josh Peck from Drake and Josh. Pretty intense film. I highly recommend you check this out on Halloween as well. Next up, the classic Psycho. Next up, the Saw collection. Great films to watch on Halloween. Pretty much the first and second one are the best to watch. The other ones are irrelevant in my opinion, but yeah, pretty good collection to have. Next up, all 4 Leprechaun movies. My favorite one is being Leprechaun 3. I don't know why, I just love that film as a kid ever since. But yeah, great collection. Great films in my opinion. Next up, Donnie Darko. Pretty great psychological thriller. Highly recommend you check it out. And that was when Jake Gyllenhaal was starting to become an actor. Pretty good performance. Next up, classic Reanimator. All 4 Friday the 13th films. I know there's a big collection out there, but it's still expensive. But I'll get it at some point if the price ever drops. But great films nonetheless. Watch them on Halloween. And who's ever making the Friday the 13th film for PS4 and stuff, you better deliver. I watched the gameplay. It's decent, but I don't think it's going to be a good seller in my opinion if they keep up what they're doing. That's just me. If I do play it, it might change my mind, but I'm standing by on that. Friday the 13th, the new video game that's being released, it looks like crap, to be honest. One of the other better remakes, and that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Great film as well. Watch it on Halloween. Another great film to watch on Halloween, The Blair Witch Project. Next up, Identity. Another classic, Day of the Dead. Another zombie film, Zombie. I'm not sure if this is the original. It might be a remake, but I think it is the original. Monster Squad. Check it out if you're a fan of horror. All the horror franchises like Wolfman, Dracula, and stuff like that. Highly recommend it. And I was lucky to find that cheap. I think it's out of print now and it's hard to find. Next up, Stir of Echoes. Pretty creepy film. Next up, Mosquito. Phone Booth. A great kind of horror thriller. It's pretty good for what it was. Highly recommend you check it out. Next up, a Japanese horror film, The Host. Another 4-pack, The Funhouse, Phantasm 2, The Serpent and the Rainbow, and The Funhouse is alright. I have not seen these other ones, but yeah, I got this for $5. Highly recommend you pick it up. Sorry, that was my Wii U. Anyways, anybody looking forward to the NX? I kinda am. Next up, terrible films, do not watch. Next up, Stephen King's collection. The Dead Zone, Pet Sematary, Silver Bullet, and Graveyard Shift. All great films to watch on Halloween. Stephen King at his best. Next up, The Sixth Sense. Creepy ghost story film. One of Rob Zombie's better films. The best one he's ever made in my opinion. The Devil's Rejects. Don't ask me why I got this. I just wanted to buy something from Walmart. Got it for like $10. 25 horror movies. Yeah, you should already know what it is. Crappy, low budget, shitty horror films, but the one that I watched is one that I have seen is let's see. Mortuary. Highly recommend that film. Yeah, it's low budget, but it's pretty decent for what it is. Mortuary, highly recommend you check it out. And last but not least, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Great sequel. well, it's not really a sequel. It's kind of a movie on its own, but I wouldn't say it's better than the first Cloverfield, but it's really up there above Cloverfield. Great film. Let's see. And I think that's everything. Well, guys, thanks for watching and staying tuned for this long video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below, like and subscribe, and share this video if you love it. If you have any of these movies or love any of these movies, type down below, let me know. And always, Jacob James Nichols, signing out of News Reviews TV. See you next time. Bye.